With kitty cat. I miss having a cat so much. I've had cats all my life,
Yeah. It was
and
really
still,
hard to
when I
find
go home, yeah.
accommodation when you have a cat.
Oh, it's
So
just, they're like, no kids, no pets. I don't know.
yeah.
What's next? Don't breathe. I don't know. Don't go to the toilet. Like, I don't know. There's so many restrictions. I don't know anymore. you know?
Speaking about toilets, I know a friend. He rented a room that had a toilet. It was an ensuite, but there was no doors to the toilet. It was just a curtain. So you're practically in your room.
Oh, wow. Sounds like the life of luxury.
And then people
Oh,
are like,
wow.
"Oh, you live in Ireland. You're very rich." And like, I'm in my room.
Yeah, I've had funny. I had some some of my friends in Croatia. Like I had them like, say exactly the same. Oh, you must be like rich as fuck, and you must be earning lots of money, and you're living the easy life, and so on. And yeah, like
No,
literally
I'm
shit in your room.
I'm
Yeah.
in my room. No, I went for a house viewing. That was when the past house where I was living at, the landlord was selling it, so we were like, eager to get out as soon as possible, find a new place, and we got a viewing for this house that there was no photos of the house anyway. So the guy was like, "Yeah, I have a house, and you want to see it?" It was an agent, so it wasn't the owner of the house. We got in. It's a very old house. It's okay. And the living room, kitchen, everything was okay. And he was like, "Can I see his face?" The agent's face. And he was like, yeah, so there's bedrooms there. And I see on his face there's something wrong up there, but I'm okay. So we go up and there's a master bedroom. And there's literally this hole in the wall. It's not a room. It's just like a little kind of secluded space with no doors, and there's a toilet in there. So, and there wasn't even a curtain. So I think probably an elderly person lived in that house, so they built her or him a toilet, just so they don't have to walk downstairs because the main bathroom was downstairs. And I looked at that. I said to Mario, like,
Oh my God.
no. I'm like, we're gonna think about it. We're gonna tell you we need to
Yeah,
talk
sure.
about this. And we went out and we just looked at each other. I was like, no. I was like, you're not like, oh my God, like seriously. Wow. That was crazy. Like that really showed me how bad things were in the housing market. So when we got into this apartment and the guy was like, "Oh, this is just, came up yesterday. If you want it, it's yours." We were like, "There's no toilet in the bedroom." "Yeah, we're taking it." Unbelievable. Like crazy.
What was your worst renting experience in Ireland that you had so far, if you had any?
Um I guess the first house, because that house actually ended up in the newspapers as one of the scandals. But this was
Really?
after I left. You probably, maybe you didn't hear about it, but it was this house that was like almost like a health hazard, because when we left, we were only there for like 3 or 4 months. The guy basically made a hostel out of the house, so he put bunk beds in the basement, and but electricity and everything else, like there was no fire exits, or he basically converted the house into a hostel without doing it properly. So I
Yeah.
think at some point they had 50 people in the house. So before that, when I was living in that house, there was a lot of people, so there was a lot of rooms, and um it was there was a lot of like criminal stuff happening in there, a lot of drugs. So I remember one morning I was on the way to work. I used to cycle to work for like half an hour at 5 a.m. going to Lidl, and
Excellent.
the guys were weighing drugs on the table and packing it, like, and then apparently someone was stabbed before that. But when we
Mhm.
moved in the house, I actually cleaned out the house of these idiots. You know me. I just, wherever I show up, I actually make changes. So I talked to the landlord, I said some things are not acceptable and blah, blah. We didn't have a lot of money. So I offered to clean the house if he decreases our rent. I'm
Mhm.
very resourceful. So our rent was around €200. That's all we had
Oh,
anyway.
that's
So
nice. Nice.
um, and then I just kicked out one by one of these people that were like problematic. I'd be like calling landlord. I'm like, you see, there's a problem. I don't think this person is good for this house, and he would just kick them. I don't know. We became like best friends. But after we left, things just went to shit, and they were greedy. And I think his son was actually the landlord of the house, not the guy that I became friends with. And I think he got this huge because like he was evading tax as well and everything. People were like paying him on hand, like so I think he needs to pay like €5 million back now.
Mhm.
So that's
Wow.
probably my craziest experience, and I can't say that anything really bad happened. There was once this party, I think it was Halloween party of all things, and we locked ourselves in the room because like there were so many people in the house that they literally wrecked the house. They broke the stairway. Um, so the landlord arrived like in the morning, and he just told us to leave the house, and then he's gonna like hire professional cleaners just to clean the house. The house was like in total mess.
Oh
Um,
my God.
yeah, yeah. So I lived there for like 3 months or something, and then we moved to Black Rock, and that was okay.
Yeah.
Somehow this explains like there are so many people that don't respect the place they live, and that's when all these rules come that you cannot bring guests, you cannot do anything in the
Yeah.
house. I guess they don't trust their tenants, and
No,
it's hard to find the good ones. Like a
yeah,
good tenant, it's actually good luck, I guess, as well.
yeah. A guy told me like he was bringing us oil in Carlingford when I was living there, and he said that his friend was he finally like put all the money to renovate the house, and he rented it, and there was this couple that lived in it, and they destroyed his house. It was an Irish couple actually, out of all things, and they even used one of the rooms to dispose of the rubbish in,
Oh, for fuck's
Oh, shit.
sake.
and he had trouble getting them out as well. So he couldn't get rid of them. And when they finally left, and they were really, really upset with him, so they did even more damage. So they ripped up the floors and stuff.
Mhm.
He had to invest I don't know how much money in trying to fix that place. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I do get them as well. As you
Mhm.
can't say who's a normal person when they walk through your doors and who isn't. It's really hard to say. But anyways, I always made sure that any place that I was renting, that I even the last place where I was living, it was like a 3 bedroom, 3 bathroom. I cleaned the bloody place by myself. I scrubbed it so well. It was
Yeah.
the guys that came in to check the place. They were like, "This is spotless," and I'm like, "Well, don't you get?" Like I don't get it. Like I even like I thought the floor wasn't clean enough, so I think uh I it was like a marble floor, so it was so hard to clean it. So I cleaned it like
Mhm.
5 times with the bleach. The entire place smelled like bleach, I think, for a month. But I didn't. I was lucky with landlords. I think they were all like decent people. Even the people that we're renting from now, they're like this lovely couple. So
Yeah, I was pretty lucky too. I didn't even have to change the place for 5 years. So once I moved, I found a new place in 2 weeks, and I only had to move out after 5 years because the landlord was selling, and I
mm.
found a beautiful place again.
I've
It,
seen your place is amazing.
Yeah.
it, it is a bit
Yeah, it
pricey.
really looks amazing.
Yeah, I need a good place to live in. I'm too old for this shit. Like,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
mm,
I went through complete hell. I mean, not always. I've had good in the recent years. I've had sort of good renting experiences, but in my early 20s, because I was desperate to just have a place, I think I was
mm,
accepting situations that no normal person would ever accept, and I think I thought it was okay because, oh, I have nowhere to go, so I better accept this, and then I would soon find to like live in a complete nightmare. And I think that resulted to, unfortunately, that resulted because I was accepting the bare minimum. I think that's
Mm.
why that made me move so many times, until I kind of like started finally reaching some sort of stability with the renting situation. I think my worst experience was definitely, I've done that in a place of desperation. I've rented a tiny, tiny box room from some Romanian couple.
Oh,
It was literally a box room where I couldn't even like you couldn't even fit the bed basically. Like it was a tiny single bed, and I was paying like 300 euros a month. I was desperate. I had to, me and my ex just broke up, and I had
mm.
nowhere to go basically. It sucked. It was a situation where like he stayed in this nice house, and I had to go. I had to move. So yeah, I had
What
to
a
rent this
gentleman.
mini. Yeah, what a gentleman. Exactly. Yeah, he stayed in his nice accommodation with his nice double bed, and I had to like just forcefully move to this shitty little box room with some Romanian couple. And that was a bit of a nightmare because when I've spoken to them, they seemed nice. But then when I moved in with them, I realized very soon after a couple of days that are super, super religious, but
Oh,
not like just a little bit religious. They're like fanatics, and I didn't know that. I saw like there was crosses around and stuff, and I'm not bothered by them, but once they realize that, I'm not living religiously, and I'm not, I'm burning incense, and I'm kind of I mean, a bit gothicy, I think they really didn't like that. And I think they were very bothered by smells. They didn't like garlic. It's kind of funny because they're from Romania, like
yeah.
they didn't like me cooking anything like garlic or onion. So I
Vampires.
wasn't allowed. Yeah, I know. I mean, you guys have a culture of vampires, like seriously. you know,
what?
Maybe they were vampires. Did you see
yeah,
them going out during the day?
yeah, maybe that's why I didn't like garlic. That's what I'm thinking.
I have to admit, when in the previous place it was a bit smaller than this one, and when my flatmates would cook something which with a strong smell like garlic, I was so annoyed. I like garlic, but I don't
Yeah,
like the place to be smell like garlic if this is not
yeah,
my food. You know,
yeah, yeah,
it
yeah.
smells like garlic. It has to be my food, and I would come out to the kitchen and my clothes would smell like their garlic. I
Oh.
just why do this.
Yeah.
Don't do this.
You know
It's
what's
funny what was happening because at one point, I was cooking every evening, and suddenly they forbid me, like they're not like you're not allowed to cook anymore. You're not allowed to use cutlery or whatever. So I was like, okay, cool. So I bought my own cutlery, my own cups and stuff. But basically, I was only allowed to cook like very plain foods like rice and things that like don't have a strong smell,
This
and
is
they
not.
blamed it on the fact that they had a baby, so that bothers the baby somehow. I don't know, like I don't know much about newborns. I wasn't allowed. I lit like sage and incense because that's part of my daily spiritual practice. And
Mm.
they got very angry. They're like, do not ever do this again, not in our house. We do not accept anything that's like not basically the incense that they burn in church, that sort of,
mm,
the one they use,
the
which is,
yeah.
it has a very similar smell. So I don't get that. They were bothered by the cooking and the incense. And um it wasn't as bad. Like it was kind of I lasted there for 3 months. It was tolerable enough, but one night I was in my bed, I was sleeping, and suddenly I hear the door open, and I can just
Wow.
hear someone standing there. And I like, obviously because it was such a small room, I just look around, I turn my head, I look around, and I see her husband standing like staring at me in the middle
No.
of the night. And that's where I was like, I
I need
drew
to
the
go.
line. I was like, I am not gonna allow some creepy fucking guy lurking around watching me sleep. And then obviously I woke up, I asked, why are you like stalking? Like, what are you doing? Oh, I'm just making sure that your room is tidy. At 3 a.m. in the morning. Come on, dude.
He was a creep.
I'm sorry. And he did it twice.
Definitely.
He did it
No.
one night around 3 a.m. and the other was a Sunday, like very early morning, must have been like 5 a.m. And he came in, he was like just looking at me. I don't know. And I woke up once again. I said, I told you not to come into my room and look at me
Wow.
like, what are you doing? And then he says, oh, it's okay. I was just making sure you were home. It's like, what? No, and I said that's where I said I'm drawing the line. I'm gonna have a creepy guy like literally opening the door like while he knows I'm sleeping and I'm in my pajamas. Maybe I'm in my underwear. You know what I mean? Like you have no
And
right to come into my room like that. And that's where I drew the line. I was like, no, fuck this. This is a creepy house. And I moved, and fortunately after that it was a good experience. But
in
my
my
God, I
second
just
house, I had a knife under my bed. We
what
forgot.
really?
We had a knife under our bed. Because like there was one guy that was living there, and he would be bringing people, and like I don't know, people. Some of these people were weird, and he would sometimes get drunk and behave like weirdly. So we did at some point forget that we have a knife under the bed, which energetically is not great to have a knife under your bed. You know, it causes problems between a couple.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Oh,
But
okay. Okay, I
yeah,
didn't know that.
and I found it when we were moving. I was like, oh shit, there's a knife under our bed. Because you know you get scared, like you don't know. Like we did have a key for the room, but there was another door that could have been open, even though there was a wardrobe on them. I
Mhm.
was like, you don't feel safe. And eventually the guy moved out, and then there was no more problems. But then there was this other couple. And talking about smells, I actually had a hidden shoe spray in my room for when the guy arrives home and when he takes off his shoes, because our doors were just at the entrance and they were smelling so bad that I sprayed his shoes every day. I had a hidden spray. I was like, okay, so what do I do with this? I was like, sorted. Like
I
honestly,
think like
he would go to
oh
like a bathroom and have a shower, okay, and the bathtub would smell of his feet for hours.
oh no. Oh no.
That's why I don't share houses anymore. I just
Vomit.
can't. I cannot deal with this shit. Like I would be bleaching
No.
everything. Like I'm not like a super clean person, but like I'm a
Yeah.
very
No.
I don't like smells. Like I have a very big nose, so I can smell things really well. Oh my god! I go.
No.
It's almost like an intimate contact. If I step on in the bathtub, I am stepping on where he stepped. I'm like, this is too intimate. I can't do this. Like,
I know. I know.
oh,
Yeah, you know what? It is actually unnatural to live with other people when you are
it
grown
is.
up. It is
It
okay in
is.
student years, but not when you are in
Yeah.
your 30s or 40s. It's just like now I think that's like the best possible experience, but generally it's just not okay.
No,
No, and
it's
you know what? After you hit the age of 30, you really shouldn't house share anymore
no.
because it
Yeah.
gets ridiculous. You need like I almost say nowadays when I'm like faced with like, oh, I have to rent with someone again, I always say to myself, I'm just getting too old for this shit. I'm a grown
Mhm.
woman, I'm a big girl, I need my own space.
Yeah.
Like
Even
I
if
Yeah.
need
it's
to have
a
my
small
toilet,
room.
I need to have
Yeah.
my shower,
Yeah.
my bathtub, whatever.
Mhm.
I need
Like
to have my space where I'm gonna cook, where I'm gonna be a woman and be in the kitchen, like actually,
Yeah.
and I get sometimes like I get very frustrated sometimes where it's like, you're faced with these kind of things like you have to there's just no other way at the moment, I guess. So
Mhm.
but it's like you just get to a point where you're just too old for this shit,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
people and for strangers and for renting and not having your space, not having your like safe, like, because if you don't have a safe space to be like a space to cocoon yourself to, you can't like really fully express yourself.
No.
You
Yeah.
can't, you're always
No.
like a guest, a tourist. It doesn't feel right.